The X method is one way to factor a quadratic when the coefficient on x squared, the number in front of x squared, is 1. Most of the time it won't be written if this is the case, as is the case in x squared plus 2x minus 24, the quadratic that I will factor using the X method in this video. To begin factoring a quadratic with the X method, you make a big X. And at the top of this X, we're going to place the constant that's at the end of the quadratic, negative 24 in this case. At the bottom of the X, we'll go the coefficient on the X to the first power, basically the coefficient in the middle, the number in the middle. Be sure when you write down these two values, you include the sign. There's a negative in front of the 24, negative in front of the constant that you write at the top of the X, and a positive 2 is the coefficient on the X to the first. I wrote positive 2 at the bottom of the X. Now, we're going to think of, and the other numbers that go in this X, the number on the left and right, are going to be two numbers that we can think of that are both a factor of 24, factors of 24, numbers that multiply together to be negative 24, and numbers that add up to be 2, numbers that have a sum of 2. So again, I'm going to write on each side of this X two numbers that multiply to be negative 24 and add up to be 2, positive. There's only one pair of numbers that have both of those properties. And the way that we can find that pair of numbers is thinking of all of the factors of 24, all of the numbers that multiply together to be 24. And we can always begin with 1 and 24. 1 is a factor of every number. And to multiply together to be negative 24, one of the factors would have to be negative, either negative 1 and positive 24 or positive 1 and negative 24. But neither of those pairs would add up to be positive 2. If I think of negative 1 and positive 24, that would add up to be 23. Positive 1 and negative 24 would add up to be negative 23. I want two factors that add up to be 2. 24 is even, so it's also divisible by 2. 2 times 12 is 24. If I think of 24 divided by 2, I'll get 12. 2 times 12 is 24. Again, to multiply together to be a negative 24, one of these would have to be negative. Can this combination, with one of them being negative, add up to be 2? No, because negative 2 plus 12 is 10. 2 plus negative 12 is negative 10. That's not going to work for us. 24, is it divisible by 3? 24 divided by 3 is exactly 8. So yes, 24 is divisible by 3. 3 times 8 is 24. What if I put a negative in front of each one? Negative 3 times 8 is negative 24. Does that add up to 2? Negative 3 plus 8 is 5. If I go the other way and put the negative in front of the 8 and the positive in front of the 3, that would add up to negative 5. So that doesn't work either. These two numbers, 3 and 8, are factors of 24, but they're not going to add up to 2 if I put a negative in front of one or the other. 24 divided by 4 is 6. These are two factors of 24. I want them to multiply together to be negative 4, so I'll put a negative in front of the 4 and the 6. If I think of a negative in front of the 6, negative 6 times 4 is negative 24, but negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. How about the negative in front of the 4 and the positive in front of the 6? This is going to work out for us because negative 4 times 6 is negative 24, and negative 4 plus 6 is positive 2. So this is the combination that works. This is the combination of numbers, the only pair of numbers actually, that multiply to be negative 24 and add up to be 2. So I'm going to put a negative 4 and a positive 6 on the left and right side of my X. This completes the X, and it actually completes the factorization. The way I'm going to write it is X minus 4, and the minus 4 comes from this number on the left side of the X, and the other factor is X plus 6. That comes from the number on the right. The positive 6 comes from the number on the right side of the X, and this is the factorization of x squared plus 2x minus 24, and I found it using the X method. Anytime you factor a quadratic, you can check your work by doing the FOIL method, by multiplying out the first, outside, inside, and last terms. And when I do that, x times x is x squared. X times 6 is plus 6x. The inside terms are negative 4 and x, negative 4x, and the last term's products are negative 24. When you combine like terms, you can see that that does make x squared plus 2x minus 24, which was the original quadratic that we factored. And because that's the case, that means that this factorization checks out. Using the x method, the factorization of x squared plus 2x minus 24 is x minus 4 times x plus 6.